Future Commerce is brought to you by Vertex. Vertex Cloud is for businesses of all sizes, from small and medium-sized businesses all the way to enterprise. You can find out how Vertex can help your business by visiting them online at vertexcloud.com/futurecommerce. Future Commerce is brought to you by Omnisend. Omnisend is way more than just email marketing. Drive more sales and combine more channels with one platform. Learn more about Omnisend today at omnisend.com/futurecommerce. Pop quiz, are you torn between hiring an email marketer or a growth marketer at the start of 2021? Well, that is just so 2020 because with Marketer Hire, you can staff a team of expert marketers on an hourly, part-time, or full-time basis. So stop looking for that one do-it-all marketer and instead work with pre-vetted experts from Marketer Hire. Future Commerce listeners can receive a $500 credit when signing a contract before January 31st, 2021. Don't delay. Go right now to marketerhire.com/podcast to claim this offer.
Hello, and welcome to Future Commerce, the podcast about next generation commerce. I'm Brian.
I'm Philip, and this is the first podcast of 2021. Welcome to 2021. We made it. We did it. I can't believe it. And to celebrate, we have the founder and CEO of FastAF, Hnetinka. Welcome to the show, Lee.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hi,
yeah,
Lee.
thanks for coming. I mean, we got you on as fast AF as we could.
That's how we roll.
Does that ever get old, Lee?
In fact, it doesn't.
What's I feel like some people might have seen a lot of social buzz around fast AF, but let's not take anything for granted. Tell us about what it is.
Yeah, it is a new 2-hour delivery app to get premium essentials delivered. You know, we have folks like Aesop and Bala Bangles, which are an incredible, ankle weight that was recently on Shark Tank, all the way down to CBD drinks like Vibes. Those are our top moving products. But what we launched a few months ago, and now we are in LA and New York.
That's
Nice.
awesome. I've often, as a customer of Aesop, I've often marveled at their ability to do next day for most orders and really blow it out of the park. 2 hour is unheard of. Congratulations on the launch. How are things going? What's what are the plans on scaling the business up? Are you moving into broader New York metro? Tell me a little bit about what the 2021 rollout looks like.
Yeah. So, the way that we launch a city is we have a micro fulfillment center that's in the middle of the metro. So in New York, it's in the middle of Manhattan on 25th and 5th. In Los Angeles, it's in Santa Monica. And that is where all of our inventory is. So we don't, go to stores. The inventory that we have is in our facilities, and that's where it is sent to customers within 2 hours. As we look to 2021, we look to expand cities. We look to expand geo coverage within our existing cities. So we're in Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn. So extending more out into Brooklyn. We're in Los Angeles, mainly on the west side, and we'll be expanding out to the east side. And so 2020 was just about seeing do customers want this? And then I think, like you said, you saw a bunch of coverage on social, and customers have told us they love it. And so we're just going to step on the gas from here on out.
What's the relationship with Darkstore? Darkstore's come up over and over on the show in a bunch of different ways. Is it an imprint of Darkstore, FastAF?
Yeah, so our whole thing has been to make accessible the premium products and brands that we want and need in our lives. So for us, we look at all the direct-to-consumer brands that have recently been launched over the past few years online. There's some classic premium brands like Aesop that have been around for a long, long time. And so for us, we felt that there wasn't this marketplace in order to get them quickly. You have a marketplace to get your basics, You have a marketplace to get your groceries, but you have no marketplace that you can get the brands that you know have a high affinity for. You're not willing to switch out and get them delivered quickly. And so Darkstore, we launched to do that. And one of our first customers was Nike, and we worked with them
famously.
to get yeah. But we worked with them to get same day delivery live on Nike.com. But what we saw was a broader picture of the e-commerce infrastructure and how it was so fragmented and so constrained. If you're on Shopify, you can't have more than one fulfillment partner. And I mean that in the truest sense of, these platforms were built for 2-day delivery and not for 2-hour delivery. And so if you're on Shopify and you can only work with one fulfillment partner who does your 2-day stuff, well, then you're never going to be able to offer 2-hour. And so, we sat there and said, our mission is to make these products and brands accessible and get them delivered in 2 hours. And we felt the way to do that was through a marketplace. And so, you asked if that FastAF ever gets old. It's just something we've lived by ever since we started the company. And so when we thought about, hey, when we're going to put a consumer-facing product out into the world, we thought FastAF was the perfect name for it. And so that's how FastAF came to be.
That's amazing. It's interesting, as you've talked about your product mix and, and sort of the mission behind FastAF, we've seen sort of other entrants into the, quote unquote DTC mall. And on another show, we had Neighborhood Goods Matt Alexander on, back in February. So, is this almost like ghost D2C mall? Is that's not really a fair comparison, is it? Where would you sort of put yourself in the market, and what do you think about direct to consumer, and why is this important to sort of direct to consumer as it exists today? I think, as you mentioned, Shopify, it was really built for 2-day shipping, not 2-hour shipping. I kind of elaborate on that a little bit more.
We think about the consumer and work backwards from there. And we are consumers of these brands. And if we are buying these brands and the only way to get them is in 2 days, well, then more and more people aren't going to be able to buy them, because you start to kind of like dabble in a different cohort after you've saturated the one that's willing to be that early adopter, willing to wait 2 days. But 2 days is not to be cliche, too old. But like it is not what is the norm today. Consumers have higher expectations of 2-hour or faster, with food, with movies, with renting a home, getting a car at the tap of a button. And so we kind of look at, if I kind of look at the direct to consumer landscape, there was this movement about 5 years ago where, Bonobos really started it, and they were the ones who pioneered, direct to consumer, or one of the brands. And it was, hey, we want to sell a better product at a historically impossible price. And I think that there are a large number of brands that have done that exceptionally well. But what starts to happen is you kind of saturate that early adopter market, and then aren't able to really extend beyond that customer base. And so, they aren't really to kind of have that prevalence or ubiquity that you would expect. And so then things start to happen where, well, do we launch more products? Do we, we have no other channel. And that's where we came in, and we said, the brands of tomorrow are not going to sell on Amazon. They don't want to because of, competitive reasons. They don't want to because they don't have a relationship with the customer. And we started to look at a lot at the landscape that exists, and saw that it was not in line with the values of today's customer and today's brands. And so that's where FastAF came in, and we said, how do we create a marketplace that has a very high bar for design, that is mobile first, Apple Pay only, that the brands have a relationship with the customer. So, we give them the customer data where we will promise to never compete with your brand and not allow third-party sellers. So the only person who can sell a brand on FastAF is either ourselves or the brand itself. There isn't a third party that the brand is going to be competing with. And these are these main pillars that we thought a lot about, and it's really resonated both with consumers and brands themselves.
The gated aspect seems really important to me. How do you sort of make determinations about, what you'll ultimately include, and are you picking winners sort of as a result of this? And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's sort of the strategy.
Yeah, we definitely do. We do have a hard line on who we work with and who we don't. We have a scorecard internally. It's something that we've built up, and it's a way that we feel we're able to score brands that align with our values and our customers' values. And not every brand is for FastAF. We feel that there's some brands that just are for a different platform, or they just don't hold the same things sacred that we do. And so we do curate. We've been told we have an incredible curation, and I think that's just attributed to the customer. They don't want to go somewhere and have to sift through everything. They want to be told what is a great brand, what are the great brands, and I think that's where we've been able to break out and differentiate.
It's a recurring theme this year. Well, I guess now we're in next year technically, but it's a recurring theme at the over the last 4 or 5 episodes is discovery being paramount, and this idea that in the future, and we are now living in the future, apparently, every brand becomes a marketplace unto itself to some degree, and cooperation through selling and curation will be a marketplace strategy for the future. If you can hang like faster delivery on top of that, like instant gratification and high end and thoughtful curation, that sounds like a winning combination.
Yeah, it's actually fun to talk in the future. For us, I think that's kind of how we think about it. We are really the superpower to all of the brands that we work with. And if you've been on FastAF or you look at it, there is no FastAF logo within the app, and that is on purpose. We highlight the brands. We spend an incredible amount of effort with the photography and highlighting and accentuating the best features of a brand. So for us, we've thought a lot about what are the things that brands really want to be good at, and what are the things that they can leverage a partner to be good at. And we felt that we want to enable a brand to just be able to create a great product and leave that instant gratification piece, leave that marketing, leave that delivery FastAF to us. And that's why we've been able to create this great new platform.
So cool. Yeah. I think something really interesting, that we've been thinking about as well over the past few episodes here, this idea of like the diminishing importance of place, the idea that physical locations are no longer as important as they once were for things like foot traffic. Instead of the digital foot traffic allows operations to be anywhere. So as you think about FastAF and Darkstore and the sort of concept of like what place means to people, I just can't help but muse that like this is sort of the next generation of like if you can have anything in 2 hours anywhere at any time, place sort of changes. It makes a lot of sense in cities, especially right now, where you can get something in 2 hours.
Thinking about the infrastructure roadmap, like how do you build this out to serve more people at once? Because it seems like it would be a resource intensive business that has moments of very intense scale needs and concerns.
That assumption would definitely be correct if we had started this business 5 or so years ago. So my first company, it was 1 hour delivery from stores and restaurants. We competed head on with Postmates. And in that was started in 2012. And in that time, there was no last mile network. There was no way to get things delivered within 1 hour. There was no infrastructure. And we were using stores as warehouses. And so fast forward to today, the world's very different. There is a very matured last mile network. DoorDash, Uber, others like Roadie. Some are consumer facing and some non-consumer facing businesses. But there is a very real last mile network that we're able to leverage on a per delivery basis. And what I mean by that is, when Uber first launched their network, until they got a city to maturity, they had to pay a driver hourly until they were able to get enough rides that would make that driver's, that driver's day. And so this way, you have the supply until you're able to really get the demand. So for our business with FastAF, we don't have that, that capital intensity, because those last mile networks are already delivering food and people and other things. We're just adding on, in a very small way to these networks. So one really great piece about the infrastructure on the delivery side is we don't have a really large startup cost there in terms of maturing the network, because it's already been matured by other companies. When we think about space, so where these products are stored, that also has become readily available, and I think that we'll definitely attribute a large amount of that to the pandemic. And what I mean by that is the magic of 2-hour delivery is having a place in a location that you can reach a large amount of the population at the quickest amount of time for the lowest price. And so in order to do that, we built this tool. It's called the Happy Valley tool. And we literally take like Google Map data, Uber Drive data. We have a number of things we kind of put into this fishbowl. What it pops out is a gradient on a map where we know on a street level basis where we need to have a dark store. And so then we literally go walk up and down that street and procure a facility. And that facility doesn't have to look like what you would imagine that facility to look like 10 years ago of what a quote unquote fulfillment center is, right? And our facility in Manhattan it used to be a creative agency. We gutted it, and now it's our dark store. And we got it at a really great price. And so I think the thing that we're really lucky for is, one, the types of things that I've just kind of went over, but where the world's going. The world is at a moment right now of transition, and a moment of where we thought things that were going to happen 5-10 years from now are happening today and yesterday. And so I think the world is ready for it. And what I mean by that is, because we've been able to get space so readily, and cheaply available, and because those last mile networks are matured, the economics for our type of business are drastically different than what you would imagine they would be, again, 10 or so years ago, 5 or so years ago. And I just think that that's because, now the world is ready for it, where, again, it likely wasn't in the past.
There's a challenge in that there's not very many, or at least there wasn't, even 4 or 5 years ago, there weren't very many 3-sided marketplaces. And you not only have to have adoption by a customer base that wants the products that you're selling and understands the value prop, but you have to have buy-in from a just-in-time workforce, right? And you have to have so adoption on that side as well. And then you have to form these partnerships, and you have to have a wholesale side of your business as well. And this sounds like the 3 hardest things that you do in tech cobbled together into one solution. It's no wonder that very few are doing it. What are some of the learnings that you have from other successful ventures like with Darkstore that helped inform how you built this? And tell us a little bit about how you've gone to build those into the business?
The big learning that I think we have, I can extract from Darkstore, and really what was the accelerant to FastAF. Not many people really understand why their customers will shop somewhere else versus with them. And I mean that on like the most like qualitative level, but also on a level of like, if you ask someone if they wanted like the Henry Ford quote, they would have told you they wanted the faster horse when in reality they want a car. Yeah. You can ask customers, do you want more selection? Do you want a better buying experience? Or what if we got your delivery to you faster? And it's not really until you show them is when they really know, like, oh, that's it. That's why I shop with you. That's what I wanted. And so we started Darkstore a few years ago, 2017. And even over the last few years, people are like, well, the consumers, they don't really need anything within 2 hours. We're like, you're totally right. No one needs anything in 2 hours, but Amazon has built this $2 trillion business that gets people things within 2 hours and 2 days. And that is the beast that you're competing against. That is the thing that if you, say, hey, well, 2 days is good enough. Well, there's going to be consumers that don't believe that. And it's not until you see them attrish and churn that you're like, oh. And so I think the big takeaway for us is with FastAF, we needed to show to both brands and consumers what it looked like in order to have them become believers. Because I'll tell you, we really pitched a lot of brands on Darkstore. Most would say, this isn't a priority for us. This isn't something that we think our customers want or need. And after we launched FastAF, it's really, really just kind of gratifying to see, oh, that's what that would look like. Oh, yeah, no, we definitely want to be a part of this. And now, again, because of the pandemic, that is something that I think, no one saw. And when you don't have that type of infrastructure, it's really hard for you to literally pivot your business. And so I think that's the biggest learning that we kind of took away, which was you really have to build something to control your own destiny. And you really have to build something to have people become believers. Excuse me, because it's not always that obvious. Even if it's something that you feel like in your own head, and it's something you want, not everyone feels that way. So that was the biggest takeaway, I would say.
Future Commerce is brought to you by Vertex. Vertex Cloud is the automation platform for tax calculation and use tax and everything in between for businesses of all sizes. From SMB all the way to enterprise, businesses all over the world trust Vertex for their tax calculation needs, and you should too. Check them out today at vertexcloud.com/futurecommerce. OmniSend is one platform to control all of your marketing channels. From marketing automation, SMS, and email to forms and segmentation, you can bring together different channels under one platform with OmniSend. OmniSend's powerful platform allows you to link together every customer touchpoint with one dashboard. And did I mention they have the most transparent pricing in the entire MarTech industry? Find out why brands like Fred Siegel and Unilever trust OmniSend with their customer relationships. Find out more about OmniSend today at omnisend.com/futurecommerce. Future Commerce is brought to you by Marketer Hire. In a recent Harvard Business Review report, as many as 83% of business leaders reported automation and digitization put strong or extremely strong pressure on their organizations to find skilled talent. And more than 60% said that they'd prefer to rent or borrow or share talent with other companies. This is the marketing gig economy, and Marketer Hire has built a network of top talent to help companies, including Netflix, Allbirds, Lambda School, and hundreds more. You can hire hourly, part-time, or full-time with no cancellation fees and no long-term contracts. This is about getting the right amount of marketing expertise right when you need it. Marketer Hire hand matches companies to expert marketers in as little as 48 hours. And you, as a Future Commerce listener, can get $500 credit when you sign a contract with Marketer Hire before January 31st, 2021. Go claim the credit right now. $500 credit before January 31st. Go to marketerhire.com/podcast. That's marketerhire.com/podcast and tell them that Future Commerce sent you.
Okay, since you brought it up, you said the big A word. Looking ahead.
This is my favorite. This is when the PR team tells us we have to cut this section out later on. Go ahead, Brian.
I know. I'm going to ask it anyway. But
all right.
Philip and I are going to be talking a little bit more going into February about what it means to be competitive with Amazon and sort of in this modern world of technology, and how retailers are cobbling together these solutions that actually, we used to always say, oh, don't compete with Amazon, never compete with Amazon, this year in your own category. But actually now we've got a set of solutions to sort of actually provide the sort of type of experiences that Amazon provides at a rate that makes it somewhat achievable. Do you sort of see yourself as part of that sort of new coalition of owned channel sort of type solutions to help provide retailers with a way to combat what they're facing with Amazon? And I've got a follow-up question to that, but I'll wait for you to answer that first.
We don't think about Amazon day in and day out. It's not something or someone that makes us work harder. We just think about the customer and building for them. And I just want to say, I'm a huge Amazon customer. What they've built is incredible. But we just felt that there was a void in what else we thought needed to exist. So we're not necessarily looking at the world as an end state where it's competition. We're looking at a world where we're building something that, we think customers want and need. And that's kind of what we're focused on. So I just want to say, that's not what moves us, or why we do what we do.
There's something to be said too, Lee, just as an addendum, there was a time where e-commerce writ large copied relentlessly what Amazon did. And it was sort of the digital version of, why do research of where to put a Starbucks when you could look where there are McDonald's? Like let's go and just look what someone has already done the work. Let's figure out, let's just relentlessly copy that. And somehow in this world, we've moved away from that. We decided that we wanted to forge our own path forward. And the experiential commerce experiences have left behind whatever language of e-commerce that the Amazons of the world and the other behemoths of the world have developed. And they've created immersive experiences where Amazon now feels anemic by comparison, because they serve very different purposes. You can't replicate the Amazon experience without billions of products. And so we have to forge our own path. And we've proven in e-commerce that there is an audience for the new world. There's an audience for that new language of e-commerce. So Brian, with that as the addendum on what Lee said, go ahead and ask the other part of the question that he also won't be able to answer.
My gosh, you already basically commented out what I was going to say. I was just read a tweet by Benedict Evans, and he said, if I worked at Amazon, I would be seriously worried about the effect that Marketplace has on the buying experience. Far too much now feels like eBay, a chaotic mess of random SKUs where you have no idea if that's the right product or what you're going to pay. I totally agree. I think that, the beauty of this own channel approach is that maybe we do need to create a new world. Maybe we don't need to think about Amazon anymore. Maybe the Amazon effect now isn't really the Amazon effect that it once was. And I loved your answer, and hopefully we can keep it, Lee, about, not thinking about Amazon, but really 2-hour delivery is something that people need and want, and they want to be able to do with the products that they have, that they love. Or maybe that they just discovered as a result of a good discovery experience.
I think that's the key, right? Lee, I want your take on that. They want that service, but they want it for a certain type of product. right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what has been fascinating for us is as we've been curating all of the brands that are on FastAF, every day we learn about a new one. And it's not even like one new one. We learn about a few new ones and a few good ones. And when we put them on the platform and choose to back them early on, our customers tell us, wow, there's so many brands on here that I've never heard of, but I want to try. And that's how they discover them. And so they do look to us as this discovery platform and this curation and this, call it, authority over, what's hot, and what's new. That was something that I can't say we started FastAF for, but it's been something that has really given us a lot of tailwinds.
Yeah, merchandising and assortment are everything in your space,
Yeah.
right? And then the next step down is fulfilling on the delivery promise, which is so how much is of the word fast is your mission statement? Like how are there other parts of the business that you feel like are more slow and methodical, or are you just trying to like fulfill fast on everything? Is it fast partner onboarding, fast delivery driver adoption? What give me some sense of like the culture and how you're building out the team and the culture.
You're preempting my management offsite.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. It's something it's a topic of discussion. It's a meaty one.
Mm-hmm.
What you just mentioned are all things we think about. How fast can we get a brand from just that we discover to being live on FastAF? How fast, we call it dock to stock. Do we get new inventory in inventory? All of these metrics. How fast, of course, can we deliver an order? But like that's the table stakes one. And so I think for us, we more so look at the world as we're kind of enabling access to these brands, and we think a way to do that is by like pairing them with fast and enabling you to get them fast. That is the differentiator that we think about. But there are some decisions that we don't move fast on. Those are the long-term decisions that are really going to have a lasting effect on our business. But sometimes we do move on a decision where I go, that was the wrong decision. And, those types of decisions you can easily, reverse on. But the ones that you can't reverse on, those are the ones that were really, 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 really thoughtful.
There's there's probably a way that you've thought about making a splash in the cities that you've launched, and tell us a little bit about that. What was your campaign to raise awareness of the app? Were you doing a lot of out of home, and how challenging was that in 2020?
I'm not a super social person, but the way that we've gone about launching cities is through influencers. And that's not a world that I know very well, but what we have been able to do is identify, some folks that are within the city that have a large following, large engagement. And we've partnered with them in a way that, we're able to have them use FastAF, love it, speak to it, and give a $20 off your first order code to their followers for them to try it, love it, and do the same thing. And we've built this flywheel and network effect through that. And I would tell you, if you had said to me again, maybe pre-pandemic or a few years ago, could you launch a city in entirely virtual? And I would tell you no, but I would tell you we did, and we have, and we will continue to. It's been fascinating to watch the effects of influencers and how you can really get down to a micro level within a geo and an engagement level. Who has followers? Who buys followers? Who has likes? Who buys likes? It's fascinating. And I can tell you, it's a strategy that I didn't know much about. I backed, and it's been the right decision.
That seems really interesting. Influencers are such a topic of debate as far as like how effective they are, and if the influencers are the future that we thought that they were, as opposed to sort of more maybe more of like the micro influencer culture versus sort of like the macro influencer culture. I am curious. So, as we look ahead to 2021, and we're maybe coming out of the pandemic, we're maybe going to sort
No,
of
we're coming out. Come on.
okay. Whoa,
We're coming out.
Yeah,
we're
Brian.
coming
Speak
out.
it into existence,
I
Brian.
love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Manifest it.
Manifest.
Yeah.
We're coming out of the pandemic, and uh, we're going to start to get back to in-person shopping. Hopefully, a little bit more than we have been. Do you expect some of the behaviors that you saw this past year are going to be sticky in 2021?
I um I like to look a lot at other cultures to see what is possible and how other people live and how I and we could live. And the US is a place that especially in e-commerce is far behind, where the rest of the world is. 2-hour delivery in South Korea, I mean, that's been the norm for years. The infrastructure and things like dark stores, those have existed in China and other parts of the world for years. We're just catching up. And so I kind of look at it as when you find a more convenient and efficient way to do something, you adopt it and you never look back, right? If I had said to you, Brian or Philip, hey, today I can get you Netflix, would you ever think to go back to using your VCR?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Like, I grew up with a VCR, and that's not a word that we hear at all often and anymore, but that's how I grew up. I grew up going to Blockbuster. And so I grew up going to a store to get my movie, walking up and down the aisles, remember bringing it back, putting it in the drop box. But now you tap a button and you get it digitally, and I get it within seconds. And so I think that's going to be, if that is the way now you can get your groceries, of which I have gotten it that way for a while. Now my mom has adopted that way, and if that's the way you can get the rest of the brands that you need in your life and in your home, I don't see why you would change and revert back to a more inefficient way. That is not to say that people don't love to go, walk up and down Fifth Avenue. That's not to say people don't love to go to the Grove in Los Angeles. I'm saying the primary way, I think, will be a way in which people have already adopted, and it's more efficient. So it's the thing that will allow you to be able to do other things. So our 2-hour delivery, it may be stopping you from going to the store, but that's not such a bad thing because now you have more time to do whatever else is you want to spend your time on doing.
Well said. I think that's spot on. Probably a good place to start wrapping up. In my thinking, your example of the VCR there, Lee, I think has this really interesting parallel to a piece that we wrote recently called Freaky Friday back, I think it was mid-pandemic. It was in July. But the idea of like digital experiences being informed by physical experiences and how the stepping stone to streaming was the DVR, right? It was time displacement, but we still had to physically record something. It was just more convenient. And the true convenience is, well, anything that you want is infinitely available pretty much anywhere that you want it all the time, and it's in your pocket. But to get there, we had to go through a couple evolutions of tech and customer expectation and adoption. And it feels to me like, FastAF is not a stepping stone, but it's probably a hint of what the customer expectations of the future are going to be in curated marketplaces, yes, but also in expectation for, two-door delivery. And I think that's really notable. And it's been an honor. We've mentioned Darkstore so much on this show over the last 3 years. It's an honor to have had you on. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts.
Thanks, Lee.
Well, the honor is frankly all mine. I think we've been at this for a few years now, and the Darkstore was our stepping stone to FastAF. And I think, we just work really hard at building something we think people are going to, want and love in their lives. And so it's never an overnight success. It's always the journey that I kind of enjoy. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. And where can people go get the app?
Right in the App Store. Just type in FastAF, and it's on the top.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Future Commerce, and go right now. Go get FastAF in the App Store while you've got your phone in your hand, which you probably had anyway. Let's be honest. Head on over. Give us a 5-star on iTunes. It helps us get this in front of other folks. We are the #1 business podcast in Latvia, Brian. I got it. Chartable told me about that. And of all places.
What?
I know. So thank you to all of our Latvian friends who continue to rate the podcast. But if you are in anywhere else in the world, please share this with someone else. Go give us a 5-star on iTunes. And that's it. Thanks for listening to Future Commerce. And remember, we have the power to shape the future with commerce. Let's make a future we're all proud of.